Hello again, YouTube. We've got to the point. I kind of started on episode 3, I suppose, was the first coding episode, in basically playing with lights and switches, LEDs and switches on a cinnamonBun, and we've kind of evolved from there to investigating various things and playing about with Morse code transmission. So back in episode 5, I would have done a synchronous function, and the API that we had was a very simple hard-coded API function, which was application specific and only transmitted the word "the." Not a brilliant example of an API. So then, episode 6, we changed it to be an asynchronous function. We still had the same API function to call, but we just implemented it as asynchronous. And I have another configuration there. That's why I'm changing configurations here, because we saved the configuration. So then we moved on, and if you see here, I've put in this line in my application code in the actual configurations, just as an aside to sort of show you how to do this. In my good configuration, in the GCC settings or XC16 settings, whichever you want to call it, on the preprocessor, I've just defined this good configuration. It's good underscore configuration. It's hard to see there because I don't know why. It's MPLAB-X, it's NetBeans, it's whatever it is. So once I change configuration here to my good configuration of the project, that hash define is defined, the compiler defines it, and this is how we moved on to a better API, an API function that wasn't application specific. So it didn't just transmit I could put in whatever I wanted in an ASCII text or an ASCII string, and that's where we've got to. Now all that, I'm going to close this project because all that has kind of ignored the elephant in the room, which is version control. And in this project directory, I've actually created a BAK for backup directory, and in there I did my own sort of like ad hoc version control. I'm working on my own here, so it's not difficult synchronizing with people because it's only me, but this isn't a good way of doing version control. So I want to now take an aside from coding and playing about with Morse and LEDs and switches and actually do proper version control in a brand new project. So each episode I kept the files in this backup directory as they were at that point in time. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create a new project and put all that code into a new project, but have each one maintained in a version control system. So standalone project, the cinnamonBun is based on a DS PIC33 EP256MU. It's the 806. So we'll use a PIC3. We'll use XC16. Obviously I might not have the latest, but I'll get back to that. And we'll call it CB for cinnamonBun. Getting started. Probably as good a bet as any. And that's us. So before I do anything with code, I'm going to start with making this a Git repository. Now there's the version control system I'm most familiar with is Git. I've never used Mercurial. I've used Subversion, and CVS was the older one. I've used those but didn't like them, but Git does everything and is what I'm going to use. So I'll just select from the team menu Git, initialize repository, and it's going to put a .git directory in my project getting started directory. So if I go to, there should be a getting started, and there's a .git directory. Now I would prefer to do Git from the command line, but I don't want to mess with NetBeans here, so I'll just use its interface, and it has added, right, these 3 green files. It has added 2 XML files which are under NB project, the NetBeans project directory, and a make file. So if I do if I right click that Git and commit it, I do and commit those 3 files. And those 3 change color. So the other thing, next thing we have to do is add source code. Now, if I list my previous YouTube project, was what it was called, at this level in my project, my new project, I've got a debug directory, which is where all the build, where all the compiled files, build project goes, and I've got a make file, and then the NB project directory. Now, at that level, generally that's where NetBeans or MPLAB-X puts its source code. I don't like that, so I'm going to make a directory here called source, and that's where I want to put my source. So I'm going to copy the version, whatever was in version 3, episode 3 of the YouTube channel video, into my source directory, and that's only one file, so we'll move that to main.c. Go back to our IDE and add the folder, and it is cinnamonBun getting started, and it's a source directory. And it's automatically added that. I think the green indicates that it's been added. So there's a lot of errors there, but I think it should probably build. Yeah. So if I look in files, it's actually added a git ignore now, which I hadn't got the last time. So it's added a git ignore, it's added main.c, and it's changed the configuration and project files. So if I commit those changes, commit those. So now I have a commit for episode 3, and I might actually just tag that as being, or create a tag to say that that was episode 003. So if we create that tag, so now I want to actually publish that on GitHub. So I'm going to create a new repository, and I've faffed about before, so I'm going to do getting started, and we'll just do that for the minute and create a public repository, an empty repository, and I'm going to copy this link to the clipboard, and that's where my repository is. You can actually see up here in the address bar that it's in the Electronic Soup organization, and CB getting started is the repository. So one thing that one thing that GitHub likes is a license file. I might add the license file later, but I'm going to use the GPL v3. Actually, I've just copied something else to the clipboard. So in here now, I want to actually push this up to my remote server. And that's the right, I'd done this before, so that's the right URI for my thing. And I'm going to the initial commit, and then I tagged. I'm going to send both of those up to the so now if I refresh this page, I should now actually have something in the repository. So there we go. Now, like I say, GitHub likes a license so that it knows what is going on. So in the top level, I'm going to do a wget of this file, the GPL v3. And I'm going to move to license, so everybody knows what my code is licensed under in this project. So I could add that. Hopefully that now doesn't interfere with the now it's happy. I hope I didn't mess with it. So I'll add that. I'll actually commit that. Make another commit. And now, if I remove main.c, that was the version of main.c that was used in episode 3. If I now copy everything that was used in version 4, so that was their second version of the project. It had a main.c and morse.c and an API defined in morse.h. So if we add these to the project, if I actually have to refresh that because it hasn't got the main. Now I've got the main, which is from episode 4. And all it did was start messing about with this idea of Morse code. Now I'm going to have to add that Morse item to the project, morse.c, but now it should build. And that's episode 4. So if I go into, it's added morse.c, morse.h, main.c has been edited, and configurations.h has been edited. So if I do a commit of those, and again I'll tag that. So this is episode 004. Create that tag. So now I'm going to go through that the whole way up to our current position, and that's how I'm doing version control. But just to be sure this is working, I'm going to push that upstream. I've got the two versions, two commits that I haven't. Now I'm going to close this project, and just to check that, I'm actually going to delete it. And just to check that, I can get rid of that, I don't need it anymore. I'm going to clone this because I now haven't got that project. I've just deleted it, and just to confirm that everything's working, I'm going to do a git clone. And we're on the version from episode 4. So if I do a git checkout of episode 003, I've only got a main.c. I've gone back to that old version of the project just to check that it's, if I open project, getting started, and if we actually look at the source file, it actually says it's from episode 3. So if I build that, all is good. If I actually close that project, and I'm not going to check out head. Well, no, I'll leave it at get out check out episode 004. If I go back now and reopen that project, my source directory should contain Morse and main, and you can see that the main.c is from episode 4, and this should build as well. And that's it. There's a lot to playing about with There's a funny thing about NetBeans, it doesn't seem to stick all the files out of the NetBeans project directory into git ignore. So I don't know why, I don't know what it's doing, but yeah, I don't really want to do that in the command line git because I don't want to mess up or confuse NetBeans. But that's it, that's my public repository now of the file, and all I've got to do is go through all the various episodes 3, 4, 5 up to the current one of 10 and add the code into the Git repository. I hope that kind of explains a brief flying view of version control under Git using MPLAB-X, and I'll tidy this project up. Thanks a million for watching, and I'll see you again soon.